We are finally seeing some real economic recovery here in Charlotte. People are getting back to work.
And on the national stage, President Obama wants to eliminate all the unnecessary government regulations that he says are dragging our economy down. WBTV's Melissa Hankins on your side. She's live in our newsroom tonight. Melissa, we're talking about job growth for a change.
That's right, Paul. You know, this has often been called the jobless recovery, but that is changing. And I'm going to introduce you to a couple who can prove it. You're going to want to get a good look at them because they are the faces of the current job climate, a climate you're probably not used to. Doug Ouellette had been out of work for longer than he ever imagined he would be.
There's stuff out there to apply for, but it was not a lot of people returning calls. You know, it was real hard to get a response, and then when you did, you know, a lot of no's.
That tale, of course, is one you've become all too familiar with. But now, finally, a twist. Doug just scored a great job as a buyer for Family Dollar.
It happened through online, and they called me up.
You might be skeptical, but Doug can attest. Companies are starting to hire again in our area. Still, it's a job market that's very different than it used to be. And it's Doug's wife, Sam, who can vouch for that. She works for a local temp agency and says more and more businesses are calling up with temporary job offers.
They could call at any time during the day and say, could you send over 3 people for us to interview today? So we are constantly taking applications, constantly doing interviews.
Here's what's going on. Executives now have more than enough capital to start hiring again. In fact, collectively, this country's companies are sitting on nearly $2 trillion in cash and liquid assets. But many of those execs won't commit to hiring full-time because they're unhappy with President Obama's healthcare and financial regulatory overhauls. Charlotte-based Nucor exec Dan D'Amico was blatant about it at a recent conference uptown.
Business leaders in this country are scared to death to do things, to hire people, to invest, because they're certain the wrong things have been done and they don't see the right things being done in Washington today.
Today, President Obama signed an executive order aimed at repairing his relationship with Big Biz. He says it'll eliminate any rules that hamper economic growth, and he's hoping it'll be the olive branch that employers seem to be needing. Live in the newsroom, Melissa Hankins, WBTV, on your side.
Melissa, thank you. Now, if you're interested in applying for one of these temp jobs Melissa mentioned, we have posted a link to Staff Masters on our website at WBTV.com.